Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Brad Lee is dropping
What it is, Brad Lee back again for the first time from home on Dropping Bombs. Today, kids, in the Zoom studio, I've got a real treat for you. Maybe you can recognize him already, Mr. Tony Whatley. What's cracking, Tony?
What it is, Brad Lee. I like this, man. Maybe you dropped too many damn bombs and now we got this apocalypse to go through. I mean, what's going on with this?
Dude, I don't know. I can tell you, and you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there's something going on, and it's not necessarily coronavirus, brother.
Yeah, I kind of agree. The reaction.
It's not coronavirus because, listen, I'm telling you, man, I drove by the hospitals here just to double check. There's things going around where they're basically checking out the hospitals. The hospitals are not packed. These lines that they talk about going around the block to get tested, there's no lines to get tested, not the ones I'm looking at. And then I'm starting to see the videos from around the country, basically, and there's no lines there. Like, what the hell is really going on? Now, there's three main ones. 5G, of course. The 5G, they're rolling out the 5G. We're all going to die. It radiates the body and electrifies the earth. Then there's QAnon, which is my personal favorite.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh my God, dude. You want the best one ever?
Hold on. Let me prepare for this one.
Oh yeah. Hey, this one I'm telling you is so far-fetched that if it turns out to be true, it is going to be epic. Now, do I doubt? I never doubt anything. I think anything is possible. However, it is so interesting, this one, that I sat there for about 3 hours and watched the video there's about 12 videos, about 10 to 20 minutes each. If you want to check it out, go to the YouTube channel called Fall Cabal, Cabal, Fall Cabal. It's on YouTube. Hit the videos and you'll see the videos that are there. The first one, start with the first one, part one. And then it proceeds to go through all of these little 10, 15, 20-minute videos. And the compelling evidence that they lay out literally makes you want to believe everything that they're saying. It's well done. It's kind of entertaining. It's just so far-fetched, bro. You're like, holy crap, this cannot be real. Like, you know, Tom Hanks is a pedophile. Oprah Winfrey's a pedophile. The Queen of England is in on it. You know, the Clintons and the Obamas and like the ruling elite are in on this big pedophile child ring criminal organization called the Deep State. And Trump obviously is the hero or part of the hero. There's a couple hundred generals rooting out people. And it's all under this anonymous person called Q, where if you go to qmap.pub, you can see their clues that they've been leaving for quite some time. But this has been going on for supposedly 20 years. JFK Jr. is not really dead. He's going to come back and be the proof and the spokesperson. But ultimately, what this is all about, according to them, the Q folks, is right now we are rounding up all of the deep state cabal that is stealing our children. And by the way, a lot of children go missing. This is all true stuff. That's why I'm saying it's pretty compelling when you look at it. It's just so far-fetched. Like Oprah Winfrey's a pedophile? That's what they're saying. They're saying Tom Hanks and Harvey Weinstein and who's that Jeff guy? Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, is he going to make an appearance too? Because maybe all that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself stuff was actually fact.
He's not dead. According to them, he is not dead, brother.
Well, you know, I was kind of a skeptic on that too, because when they showed the photos of him being wheeled out on a gurney, presumably dead, they had a sheet pulled up all the way up to the chin. And you know damn well, Brad, like if they're rolling out a dead body, they're not going to pull the sheet down and show some face. And I remember people looking at the bridge of his nose and then comparing it to photos, and it wasn't even the same nose. So I don't know if he got a nose job in prison or what, but it definitely didn't look like him. And I think that was done purposeful for some reason.
See what I mean? That's interesting.
Yeah.
And you look up cognitive dissonance, which is basically, it's so far-fetched, no one will believe you. And that's what they've been banking on for years. So that's the Q theory. Then there's the 5G theory.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the other one? There's three main conspiracy theories that were happening. It's 5G.
The cashless banks going all digital, and the U.S. having its own Bitcoin or something, and this is how to reset the financial markets to get it back down to zero, and maybe we're going to go back to the gold standard or something like that.
Yeah, why wouldn't they just do that?
Right? It seems like a better idea anyways to me if you think about money. So.
Yeah, but they don't, since when does the people get to control the government? Like we've been awoke from that facade for a long time.
Right.
Government should just do what they need to do. Why would they stop the whole entire world? See, this is the thing that blows my mind, dude. The whole world shut down.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I got season hockey tickets for the Golden Knights. Like, is someone giving me a refund for that?
No.
That's nonsense. That's total bullshit. I have private school for my kids. They keep whacking me, but they're not in school. Like, I don't get this, folks. How is the whole world shut down over a few deaths? And when I say a few deaths, I mean a few. Okay.
Yeah.
People can be like, oh, well, you wouldn't say that if it was your grandparents. Dude, my grandparents died already anyway. Okay. And old people die. Okay. Someone said an 82-year-old died from coronavirus. I'm like, dude, an 82-year-old can die from being 82.
Well, think about this, Brad. You and I are out there trying to help people all the time by sharing knowledge, interviewing people, standing on stages, doing all these different things. And I'll tell you that if I was on my deathbed right now, I would not want to suicide the entire global economy just because I was passing away. I don't know about you. I mean,
well, I saw a few memes the other day. I got to put on my readers here, but I saw a few memes the other day. I'm going to blow your mind with here real quick. Oh, and by the way, folks, for those of you that might not know who I'm talking to, if you're thinking about who is this Tony Whatley dude? Well, Tony Whatley's a business mentor, obviously a speaker. He's got a best-selling book, and he's a podcast host, as well as being an entrepreneur pretty much his whole life and helping people make a lot of money, right?
Yeah, there you go, man.
Yeah. So again, this guy's got he's well known by a lot of people, but in case my bomb squad listeners do not know, he's basically had a corporate career in oil and gas. He, did all kinds of things, but through the conversation, I'm sure you'll realize who he is even more so. But just so you know, okay, he's the host of 360 Driven podcast, and his book is called Side Hustle Millionaire. And if you want to check it out, go to 360driven.com/podcast or /book, and you can find him any social media at 365 Driven. Now back to our regular scheduled programming, because what I want to show you is some craziness. This is crazy talk right here. Now, this is a fact, okay? And I'm even going to share it with the old screen because I took.
All right. We're getting full YouTube benefits right now.
Dude, look at this. This is a fact. Okay. You can look it up yourself. From January to March 25th, there's been 21,297 coronavirus deaths worldwide. Now, keep in mind that number is going to climb because obviously they're blaming everything on coronavirus now. You could have gonorrhea syphilis, be down on your last breath. You would have died no matter what. And, they tested you for coronavirus and you came back positive, which, by the way, there's a lot of false positives happening. So if you literally tested for coronavirus, but you died of everything else, they would list it as a coronavirus death. But there's 21,000 as of March 25th. This is their numbers, not mine. Okay. At the same time, Tony, there was 113,000 seasonal flus. Now, you hear all the dipshits online when I question things, because I'll question things. I'm not afraid to question things. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wait a minute. More people die from the flu. Then you get people going, the flu's not as contagious, mister. Well, dude, I didn't know you were a virologist. Now, all of a sudden, it's really, really, really contagious, this thing. If it's so damn contagious, how come nobody I know has it? Do you know anybody with it?
No, man. It's always a coworker's third husband's ex-wife that has it.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's like, dude, there's something going on, and I don't know what it is, but I sure want to find out because, dude, they shut down the whole entire planet for this.
Yeah.
When there's 113,000 seasonal flus already this year, which is 5 times the coronavirus decedents. Now, again, there might be someone listening that's like, my grandmother has it. Listen, I apologize. I hope my mother-in-law doesn't have it. I hope my mother doesn't get it. I hope anyone doesn't get it. But when people get the flu and die, like, it's sad too, right? But nobody's stopping the NBA All-Star game. Nobody's literally telling everybody to stay in your homes. Only go out if you need to. I mean, it's crazy. They shut down the casinos in Las Vegas, bro.
Dude, the whole city shut down over there.
Cities. Well, I mean, not really, because again, I can get in my truck. I can go find restaurants that are open. The gas stations are open. CVS, Walgreens, they're all open. It's just the fun things to do and the entertainment, And then I was a little bit pissed that the liquor store was considered essential. And I'm like, see, now that's stupid, dude. Alcohol is not essential. Now, and I do drink, so it's not like, oh, you just don't drink. Well, dude, I don't necessarily drink all day at my house. I haven't had a drink or a drop of alcohol since I stayed home because, again, I don't usually drink at my house. I'm only drinking to party, and we haven't partied. So I suppose if I wanted to party with my 2 children, I wouldn't need alcohol for that either. So I could care less if the alcohol stores were open, but someone educated me. Someone said, well, Brad, there are alcoholics that if they don't get their alcohol, they literally could die. Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense. Perfect. That's essential then. But dude, there are a lot of essential things that aren't open. And in my opinion, like a haircut, that's essential. Don't you think?
Yeah, man. But I mean, you're still rocking an apocalypse dude pretty well. I mean, I had to say, if you,
Cheers.
Brad, you would be a damn good looking zombie. I'm just going to tell you right up front.
I can't wait. So dude, 228,000 malaria cases, 249,000 suicides, 313,000 traffic accidents. This is deaths, by the way. Almost 400,000 AIDS patients have died right now since from January 1 to March 25th. Cancer's killing 1.9. Hunger, 2.3 million people have died in the first quarter. 2.3 million people. Now, people will say, well, yeah, but that's not contagious. Hunger's not contagious. Folks, listen, not very many people are dying is all I'm saying. That's
and those are pretty stable numbers that you just shared. But the one that's going to increase the most because of this is the mental health, the suicide rates. Whenever time we go into an economic recession, we see higher crime rates, we see more suicide, we see more depression, and those things aren't even counted right now because those are pipeline things that are being triggered today, which will show up 3, 6, 12 months from now.
So what do you think's going on?
Man, I don't know. I think that they were trying to hide something that was going on, and they just used this convenient virus thinking it would be a much bigger situation than it's panning out to be. And they're kind of like, oh, crap, like we thought it was going to be better because the projections were like, Brad, millions of people are going to die and from this in the next 2 months. And if we don't just stay home, it's going to do this. And they used the mass hysteria. So when this shit show kicked off, I was actually overseas. I was actually in Portugal on vacation with the wife. And 2 days after we landed is when they started to have all this shit show showing up in the United States. And it was really interesting for that next 10 days that I got to spend over there observing how the Portuguese handled this, which were, arguably closer to all the threats because we were right next door to Spain. We got the UK and everything right above us. Far more cases on that continent than the US at the time. And here's the thing is that it wasn't a panic shit show. I was watching the news because anytime you go out to eat over there, there's always their local news and then there's the US news sitting there. And seeing the panic and the doom and gloom on CNN and Fox or whatever your choice is did not even match to what the local news over there was talking about. They had doctors coming on. They were talking about social distancing. They're talking about wash your hands. and we're going to have to, basically do things a little bit differently, but, we're all under control. The Portuguese were very relaxed about this. People were out still walking their dogs, doing kind of things. You never saw anybody in a panic mode. And, so we're renting a car for the 10 days, driving around, because that's what we like to do. We like to go explore castles and wineries and things like that. And we'd stop in these stores, supermarkets, no panics, no lines out the door. Nobody's wearing masks. Plenty of toilet paper, Brad. Plenty of toilet paper in Portugal. But there you go, man. It's a lot different than the way it was over here.
Did you have any problem getting back in? Did they zap you with a thermometer or anything?
Yeah, we had to rearrange our flights a couple times to find a different path, because anybody returning from overseas had to go through Washington or Newark. Newark really sucks. That's how we go through. But I'll tell you, you just walked in and they basically shoot your thermometer on your forehead and then go, keep on going, keep on going. And it was a pretty okay process. I thought, why do I have to rearrange to do that? Why couldn't they just shot my temperature in Houston? It took literally half a second to do, but I don't know what they're doing about that either.
So let me ask you a question, Mr. Whatley. What would you say to somebody sitting at home? They've been shut down, they're non-essential, and they are scared. They were living a little bit paycheck to paycheck, not so much that they're already scared or screwed, but like what, they've got maybe a month or two worth of bills, maybe 3 months, and they're scared. What would you tell them?
Here's the thing. I think we've had this record economy for the last 5-6 years, just really going up. We've seen record stock markets. We've seen money come to us really easily. A lot of people are employed. Everybody's buying all these fancy toys, doing these kind of things, and they get really lazy. We start to lose our hunger when things are easy, and we start taking things for granted. So me being a business coach and teaching people how to start business and taking the ideas in their head to create the business, basically people were just like really not interested in that in the last few years, because they had money, they had toys, they had an easy lifestyle. And now they're starting to pivot. They're starting to think about, wow, we got some real bills coming in from all these toys that we bought and all these things that we paid for on credit. And like you said, brother, they're starting to feel that sweat coming on, because they haven't understood how to do things on their own. You see a lot of people out there losing their jobs, and I hate it. I've seen millions of people starting to claim unemployment. I've been there. I went through that in 2015. So my wife and I actually took an active approach back in 2015, even in the height of economic times in the recent years, to scale down our lifestyle. I was the joker that had 10 cars in the driveway and was spending all kinds of money, traveling to Europe 4 times a year, doing kinds of crazy shit, expensive weekends. And you know what? We said, that's not even important anymore. Let's just start to think about how we can weather another storm, because there's always a correction every 7 to 10 years. You and I both know that. We got the right age, the experience behind that. So we started to really scale down when everybody else was scaling up. So we're actually uniquely positioned for this situation that we're in today, but most people aren't, and I get that. So here's what I want people to understand. Start thinking about your skill sets and the things that you can either learn or monetize that right now. So everybody out there maybe has a job. They define themselves like, hey, Brad, what do you do? Well, I do this. They always define themselves based on their career or their job. That's not who you truly are. Everybody has unique skills or talents that they can monetize and take things online, because obviously we have to adapt. You and I, we would have had this meeting in your office in Las Vegas after speaking at an event this weekend. But the thing is you and I have adapted. We're doing this online on video right now. These tools are very accessible. Everybody's got access to Zoom. You can have 45-minute meetings for free with a free account. You can create a PayPal or a Stripe account to create transactions and create some money coming in towards you. You can go through your house right now when you should be doing the spring cleaning anyways and finding a bunch of shit to sell on eBay or Craigslist just to get us some free cash. And I'm going to tell you this because you need to get ahead of that, because if this goes another month or two, people are not going to be spending any money and they're not going to be buying the stuff you're trying to sell. So if you're really thinking that you have some fear behind you, start getting rid of some assets right now while people do have money to spend, because it's not going to be there in a couple of weeks or even a month. So think about things you can do that, man. Think about it.
Well, again, I'm one of those optimistic fellows, Tony. I wouldn't necessarily buy into your doom and gloom for the future. I think it's going to be the opposite. I think it's going to be the opposite. But then again, dude, you're the one that's probably going to be caught with, your pants up. and I'll be caught with my pants down. Why? Well, because dude, I don't like, I think people are going to spend money. If they don't have any, obviously that's going to make a difference. But like, again, if I'm looking for someone right now, for example, as a customer, and they don't have any money in 2 to 3 weeks, well, then I shouldn't have been selling them what I had today. Unless, of course, it was something that would make them money. Like I told someone the other day, they were like, well, I'm not really sure. I'm scared. I only have so much money. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. What happens when that money depletes and those resources deplete and the credit cards get maxed and now you have no options and now you still have no money? Why wouldn't you spend some money now that you have some to make more? And he agreed, and boom, we made a deal. And thankfully, because we create revenue for people in using online courses and what have you.
Yeah, I mean, your business model is perfect for this stuff. And the thing is that I agree, those who are wise, those will invest in themselves, because you and I both know that in a downturn, personal development business as an industry actually spikes. And I didn't believe that the first time I heard that, but I started looking back at the last few times that I'd been laid off in my oil and gas career. Usually every 7 years, there's a downturn. Right now, there's a downturn in oil. They're starting to think about speculating down to single-digit barrels of oil, which is destructive for that industry.
Yeah, but it already is, isn't it?
I think it got in the teens. I'm not sure if it hit.
No, dude. No. Like you can buy a gallon of milk costs more than oil right now.
There you go. So that is a huge layoff factor. There's going to be millions of people discharged from the industry. And the thing is that when you understand that, you got to be able to invest right now when you have the money to go grow something. And most people that know that, they'll go get that certificate. They'll go get that further education. They'll go hire that business coach. They'll go read books, because when you find yourself unemployed or with your income cut off, the tendency for most people who want to be survivors and come out of this ahead, they invest heavily in themselves so that they are more fortified for the job market or that entrepreneurial path that they want to take. So you should be using this time right now to get ahead and getting yourself better at doing something that you can get paid for. Maybe start that business that you've been telling all your friends about for the last 10 years, but you can just all talk, no action. These are the times that you should be doing that. So nobody really has the excuse of no time right now.
Guess how much a gallon of oil is?
I'm not sure.
Well, there's 42 gallons in a barrel. So
90, well, let's see. 50 cents.
A barrel, 63 cents.
There you go.
Dude, isn't that nuts? You can buy oil cheaper than a gallon of milk right now.
Yeah, man. If you were a holding tank company, that'd probably be a good place to fill up right now when you got low dollar supply, right?
Well, and turns out the U.S. is buying a whole lot of oil when it's cheap. We're stacking it and stacking it and stacking it. So that's what makes me think, man, is this obviously somewhat to do with a little bit of politicalness? Are we swiping the oil? Is China doing this to us to swipe the stocks because they like to buy up everything American, and the New York Stock Exchange plummeted? So now somebody that might be involved with this is buying stocks at cheap. So at the end of the day, it's like, is this a money war? Is this biochemical warfare? Is this a tactic from the Chinese government? Is it a tactic from our own deep state? Like what the hell is going on here? But before we get back into that conspiracy shit, I want to talk about you going broke in 2015. You said you went flat broke?
No. Actually, I was broke in 2000, but not 2015. 2015, I lost my corporate job as a multiple six-figure project management career.
Well, that probably helped you, though.
It did. It made me not want to ever go back again. That's one thing for sure.
Well, if someone can learn how to make money without answering to somebody else, why not?
Yeah.
If I could go get a job like for a company where I had bosses and all that, and I would need to be paid, so much money that because I value my freedom. I value that I don't have to ask somebody if I can go on a vacation for a month or 2 months. What if I'm on vacation and I don't want to come back for another 2 weeks? Well, then I just won't. And I love that feeling. To me, that is valuable. So I would rather have, for example, $100,000 a year income as an entrepreneur doing what I want than $1 million a year income as somebody else's bitch. And when I say somebody else's bitch, I know somebody's going to be upset about that.
Oh yeah.
because, well, it doesn't make me their bitch. Listen, I understand, folks. It's just my funny way of saying employee. So don't take it personally. I'm just messing around. I've got employees. I joke with them all the time, call them my bitch. No, I'm joking. I don't. But in reality, I just value freedom. I would rather make 100,000 as an entrepreneur doing my own thing than I would making $1 million as an employee. However, there's something to be said about being an employee, especially a high-paid employee. You don't have to worry about rent. You don't have to worry about taxes. You don't have to worry about the lawsuits. You don't have to worry about the risks and the pressures of owning a business, man. You just roll and get your paycheck. But now, dude, how many people are listening to this podcast right now that thought they were good and thought they were valuable? And soon as this thing happened, fired, furloughed, laid off. Dude, listen, I'm not a big company. And when I say big, I mean, I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars saved in a bank somewhere. I haven't been stocking cash away for years. I spend a lot of money and I reinvest a lot of money. So like my company is not, solid, like from a, they'll be around 1,000-year type company. I'm basically a 20-year-old startup. But at the end of the day, I didn't fire anybody. There's people out there that immediately started firing people.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why don't people value their employees enough to give it a couple weeks, or maybe give it a month and see if they can be repurposed, or, maybe just wait? Like why instantly?
I think it's a knee-jerk reaction when you use bullshit to get people to come work for you. You only have bullshit to show them when the things go hit the fan on you. So that's just a knee-jerk reaction. But I like that you talked about the employee versus entrepreneurship. So my very first company I started was in 2001, and I sold it for a couple million in 2007. Now, during that entire time, I actually had a full-time career in oil and gas. I'm an engineer. And a lot of people ask me, Tony, why didn't you quit when you had that business making all this money? And I'll tell you, it's what we call the sunk cost fallacy. And if you don't know what that means, it's a bullshit story or narrative that we tell ourselves that we have to stay in this game. So I grew up lower middle class, 2 hardworking parents, and I've seen the fear in my dad's eyes when he get laid off from his oil and gas chemical refinery job, and he'd come home and be angry, and we just avoid him. And my mom would try to make things better. And the biggest fear that my parents always had was not having that steady job, Brad. And that generation, the baby boomers, it was normal for them to go through a 20 to 30 year career with the same company. And that was absolutely normal. So we got to hear these things like steady job and, go do job loyalty and job security and all this bullshit that we just kind of grew up believing. You and I are about the same age. We guarantee we heard stuff like that. People still repeat that stuff. And it's not even true, because it's like what Brad said, when something goes bad, you find that your value is actually worth nothing. Your decision that someone else is going to make is going to be, hey, you don't have a job today. And that's the bad part about being an employee, is that you don't have options. So when your boss comes to you and say, hey, your last paycheck is this Friday and we're done with you, thank you, come back when the thing comes back around, maybe we'll hire you. That's the freedom that you've given up for sitting in that cubicle for so long. Now, as a business owner, you have a freedom that you only get to fire yourself. And if you're making these widgets, which are not essential in these kind of times, you can pivot. You can use your team. You can be creative. You can brainstorm. You can work together and really get fucking hungry and start to go the right direction and just do something completely different, because you've already got your EIN number. You can create income. You have the accountant there. You can do all these different things. You can even just do something completely out of your own vertical, as long as you can create some income. And that gives you and your employees a lot more freedom and a lot less stress, because although it's not the norm, you're letting them do something that they can help save themselves and their family and pay their bills, which is a huge empowering thing. So why didn't I quit, Brad? Is because I struggled to go to school. I paid for my own degree, got an engineering degree. It took me 7 years. I was working in those chemical plants for that 7-year period, just like my dad did. And I always saw that as a struggle that I had to endure to do that. And I paid for all this money to get the degree, and air quotes for the listeners, I didn't want to waste that degree. And me being an overachiever, I also wanted to prove that I could achieve in the corporate level, because we always have these dreams about being the lead, and then being the manager, then being the director, then the executive, and maybe even the CEO one day. And that was the path that I was on. But I started to look back about 10 years ago after I'd sold my company. I started looking at my boss and my boss's boss, and maybe even my boss's boss's boss. And I started to ask myself these hard questions as, can my supervisor give me the lifestyle that I dream about? And I would study their actions and look at their lifestyle, maybe go to their dinner parties and things like that. The answer was always no, because I actually had a better lifestyle than the people I was reporting to. So well, maybe the boss's boss will have a little bit nicer. He's got a little nicer office, a little bit nicer car or truck. Maybe he's got the thing that he can give me. I start looking at them, doing the hard evaluation, and dude, they didn't have anything to give me either. So when I got in my 40s, I'm 47 for context, I started looking at these people going, why am I fucking working so hard to try to please these people that can't give me the life that I fucking dream about? So I started thinking about, man, I need to go bet on myself because I'm wasting 40 hours a week. That's on the low end, probably 60 hours a week, oil and gas, supporting somebody else's dream, doing something for them, being on call 24/7, flying all over the world at the last second because they needed me somewhere, working in places like Africa and all kinds of things. I got to see a lot of things. I got to meet some awesome people, but I started to say, I need to bet on myself, and I'm tired of my income being somebody else's decision, man.
Yeah, that's the part that I can't stand. So when were you broke?
The year was 2000. I just come out of a oil downturn. I only had 6 months of experience working in a job, had to live off of credit cards for about 6 months, had a newborn son, was depressed, was in a failed relationship with his mother. We were never really meant to be together. We never got married. It was just an unplanned pregnancy. And so we were trying to make things work, and it was really toxic at home. She didn't support the dreams that I had. She would actually laugh at the business ideas I had. Even the one that made millions, she would call that stupid and say, like, why do people want to sit around and talk about cars on the internet? That's stupid. You're wasting your time. So I just was in this turmoil, and I felt like I was in Groundhog Day. I hated getting up every day. I just felt like I was going through the motions. I remember just driving in a shitbox pickup truck that couldn't even go 60 miles per hour because it had so many maintenance issues with it. And I would get to the job site, and I wouldn't even remember my drive there. I would just be like blanked out because I was so in a funk. And I thought that everything was going for me 6 months earlier than that because I just graduated and I just got that engineering degree, and I felt like I was a big boy, Brad. I was finally got a salary, no longer an hourly worker, and it's all taken away from me, and nobody was hiring. I was broke, didn't have enough experience, started going back waiting tables, started to be a mechanic, started detailing cars, started installing stereo systems, anything I could do that had some kind of a skill. I was willing to go do to get paid on these little odd jobs to really just try to make some money. And that's what I did. And here's the thing is, a lot of people tell you like, oh, Tony, we're going through this pandemic, and, I don't know if it's the right time to start a company. Guys, I started my company right in the middle of that, 2001, when she and I finally split up and I went out on my own, had to pay child support, 2 different apartment things, was working 3 jobs. I was depressed, feeling low self-esteem. I started my company. Because it gave me one positive thing to work on, to focus on, this, just get away from all the shit that was going on in my life. So I don't like excuses when people tell me, well, I got kids, I got a spouse, I got bills, I got this full-time job. Guys, I had 3 jobs. And even after I started that company and it started to cash flow about 6 months in, I still worked 3 jobs for another 3 years, Brad, because I was so buried in that pit that I had to get myself out of that. So I would get off my next engineering job, go put on an apron, go wait tables at the restaurant that I used to manage before I graduated, and pick up extra shifts. And then on Saturdays, I would go wrench on cars at a mechanic shop and fix cars. So I actually had 3 different jobs going on while I was building this website and getting myself out of that hole. And it took me 3 years to get back to zero, guys, to zero.
6 years or 3 years?
3 years.
3 years to get back to bust even.
Yeah.
Is that all your credit cards paid off, that type of thing?
Yeah. Out of debt, and finally started getting on the positive side of things.
Well, that's good. That's good. So again, if someone were sitting there right now, they're in the same situation, but you had the ability to go get all these side jobs. What about the person right now laid off, can't leave his house, can't go anywhere? What would you recommend? What would you say to that person?
I think nowadays you got to put it in context of the time. This was 2000s. The internet was just starting to fire up back then. We didn't have a lot of online businesses. I was able to go out there, teach myself how to build web pages, teach myself how to do Photoshop and monetize those skills. I just read books back then. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have Facebook. We basically had the books at the bookstore, and we could teach ourselves in little by little by just doing things. Nowadays, you should be thinking about how you can take your business model, even if you have an existing business model or wanting to create one, and making it a virtual business model, because I don't really subscribe to the client base or the customer base being only in your town or in your zip code. I think that's thinking way too small. That's how I used to think back before I owned a business. I used to think like everybody needed to have a storefront on Main Street and a little sign that says Whatley's Tire Shop or something. And I said, that just doesn't work today. I want the entire world to be my customer base. And we carry these little devices that are called cell phones around in our pockets that connect us to the world until, the conspiracy that they may be shutting off the internet at some point just to really test us. But until that happens, you have the entire world at your fingertips to go educate yourself in some new skill set, some new knowledge. You can get some free accounts on most of these apps to really build out your businesses. You can create a free website on WordPress.org. You can get free PayPal accounts that just take 3% of your transactions. You can do all these things out there for free. You just got to spend a little more time, which is what you have right now. Your commodity is time to learn those things. And I get it. Some people are just like, well, Tony, I got kids at the house. And it's hard entertaining little kids at the house, and I got a spouse, and I got to go walk the dog. Well, you know what? Those kids aren't really trying to get your attention at 3 to 5 in the morning, and they're not trying to get your attention at 9 to 11 in the evening. So you still have hours in the day, but you still have a lot more excuses. And the problem is that your comfort level is exceeding your pain. And when you start to understand that your pain starts to get higher than your comfort level, you're going to get a little more desperate. You're going to start being more creative and figuring out some stuff.
Yeah, you think it's too late by then, or doesn't matter?
What do you mean?
Like, a lot of times when people get a little too uncomfortable, that's when the change happens because of the pain reaching a threshold. Do you think, is it, in other words, if someone were to just make the change earlier, you think there'd be an advantage to that? Or do you think, waiting till you finally have to? I always use it like gaining weight. I'll gain weight, and then as soon as I can't fit in a pair of pants, it's like, wait a minute, now it's getting like bad. I better start hitting the gym. And I go from a 36 to a 38, or the 36s get real tight. And it's like, dude, if the 36s get tight, I'm going to the gym. I'm on keto. Like, I don't give a shit what you say. But usually it's I have to get those, in that situation, which if I would have just been smarter, I wouldn't have gotten that situation in the first place, because I would have had some discipline and some consistency. So using it like that as an analogy, when you don't have to be sitting at home broke. You don't have to be 30 days behind on your rent to make a move. But most people, like you just said, do. So my question is, do you think there's an advantage to waiting? Do you think like, you ever heard the old lady push a car off her grandson when it fell on him?
No. Oh yeah. Because she got super strong and it like dosed her. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like waiting until the pain hits the threshold. Now that's the equivalent of lifting a car off your kid. Maybe you couldn't have done it otherwise. I'm not the believer of that. I think you could have done it at any time. You just chose to wait because you're a lazy, undisciplined, procrastinating crybaby that doesn't like yourself. How do I know? Because that was me. Still is in some cases. But I think if people get started now, they literally will be better off. But just out of curiosity, what do you think? You think that gives them some sort of superpower by waiting?
No, there's two different types of people, obviously. I think that if you know your characteristics and your tendency to procrastinate versus taking action, then if you're an action taker, by all means, the earlier you start, the better, because you will have some different advantages going forward. And that's the number one excuse, or actually the number one regret of any business owners, is may even be yours, that you didn't start sooner. Is that one of yours?
Oh yeah.
It was one of mine too. So I just wish I would have started sooner. So that, knowing that is the number one regret for all business. I've surveyed hundreds of entrepreneurs. That's their number one. If you looked at the ratio of people that respond. So understanding that, what's that old Chinese proverb? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. That applies to business. That's a good proverb. So understanding that, here's where we go with the procrastination now. Procrastination, sometimes it actually is a benefit because it gives you a little bit more time to assess what's going on there. So you're not doing some knee-jerk reaction to jump into a new industry or a new niche until it proves itself out. Because we also find that it's not always beneficial to be first. It's always better to be better. So I think about a lot of times we look at these businesses that are highly successful out there. They weren't the originator of that idea. They just observed their competition a little bit longer, took some good notes, and thought about how can I improve this product or this service or this app or whether website or whatever it is. And I go, you know what? Now that we got a better strategy, I think that they're missing this glaring hole in the market. We can go capitalize on what thing they missed or the things that people are complaining about on their product. So procrastinating on purpose is a strategy that you can actually employ. And I like that you talked about the waistline. I actually use the same thing, right? Until I found the stretchy jeans, those kind of give you a little bit of a cheat room. But outside the stretchy jeans, yeah, man, when you start to do that, you're like, I am not going to go buy new pants and be a fat ass and show muffin top and have to hide my shit with long shirts. I'm going to go back to the gym or start eating properly. But that is a boundary that you created, Brad, that waistband boundary. And when you have that boundary, that's your trigger point. You're like, you know what? Here's my boundary. And now I'm going to start taking action. That's important to understand where your boundary is. We all have different boundaries because I am also a strategic procrastinator where I have to give myself a timeline on everything I do. We talk about another analogy. When you give something, a task, too much time, isn't it funny how that task takes the same amount of time that you give it? It expands to reach the same amount of time that you give it. So you got this thing that takes 5 days to do and you go, you know what, I'm going to do this in the next 20 days. And if you're committed and you hold promises to yourself, it's fucking amazing how you finish on that 19th day, probably in the 12th hour, and you go, yeah, I did it by 20 days when you could have done it in 5 days. But that's okay because maybe in that other 15 days, there was other things that were more significant that you needed to build, and that's okay. So I always had to have a deadline, and me being a former project manager for 20 years, I've always had the goal mindset where this is the deliverable I got to create, the product, the service, the equipment I'm building, whatever it is. Here's the budget that I have assigned to do that. Here's the timeline that I have to do that. Now you may look at the timeline to start stepping backwards at all these tasks and go, hey, this shit's impossible. We don't have enough money, or we don't have enough resources, or we don't have enough whatever. Well, there's always a solution where most people would quit and go, well, yeah, that's impossible. I quit. Project manager goes, well, how do I fix it? Where's the leak? Where's it need enhancement? Do I throw more money at it right here? Do I double up on the manpower here? Do I farm some of this part out here so that the schedule's realigned? So when you're starting a business or a fitness journey or anything, there's always steps that you have to walk up to get to that. Be wary of what your goal is, what's your quality that you're going to deliver, the goal, the objective, the financial outlay that you want to create. Work backwards, find out where it's breaking down, and fix that by throwing some more resources or time or hiring people that know shit better than you to do that. That's how we solve these kind of problems. Entrepreneurs, we don't take on excuses. We only look at challenges.
I wish I had my bomb. I keep doing this just in case. Watch. So anybody,
you're gonna have to get your team to add the bombs in post apocalypse.
Yeah, I just keep doing that. That's where the bomb should go. So, Tony, let me ask you this. You just got back, you said Portugal?
Yeah.
What were you over there for?
Wife turned 40 years old and she loves wine, and we had not toured the wine country in Portugal. We've been all over the world. So that was the next one on the list. And that was her 40th birthday.
It looked badass. I was following you on the old IG stories. I think it was the stories. Were you posting on stories?
I post everywhere, man.
Where do people find you? At 365 Driven on Instagram?
Yeah, that's right.
And folks, it's Tony Whatley, just in case you didn't hear me before. He's got a book. What's the book called?
I'll show it on the screen here. It's called Side Hustle Millionaire.
Side Hustle Millionaire. That
Everybody knows this guy.
Right.
So I got a real famous guy on the cover here, Ben Franklin.
That's a bestseller right now.
Yeah, it sold over 1,000 copies in the first week. And that was
why? Does it teach people how to build a side hustle?
Yeah, it takes the ideas that they have that everybody talks about. Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I got this idea. Brad, I got this business. You and I, we probably hear this all the time. Everybody gives themselves credits for the business ideas, but ideas don't mean shit unless you take action to make them into something, because let's be honest, there's millions of people dying every day. Brad showed you a whole list of millions of people dying every day that die with good ideas. They never take to market. So don't give yourself too much credit if you've got good ideas. My book allows you a process on how to evaluate those ideas against each other to find the one that's going to give you the best odds of success based on your currently available, whatever you have available to start things, your special knowledge, your skill set, the money, the resources available, looking at your purpose and your passion around the businesses and understand that if you can do these kind of things long term without feeling the anxiety or the stress, and how to get those things through. And it starts to handhold you even on the branding, the marketing, the positioning, the funding, and even how to create your first web page.
Damn. And you learned all this yourself or what?
Yeah, I did. I read a lot of books, man. I still read a book a week on average.
See, dude, I don't understand how people read a book a week. What else do you do? Nothing?
No, man, I just go to the gym and drive around in my cars and post on Instagram all day and troll.
How many pages a day do you read?
Well, the best way to consume books for me is audiobook. So anytime I'm driving or I'm working out, I'm always listening to podcasts like yours, or I'm listening to audiobooks. So I've basically replaced music. Even though I love music, I just decided I like to learn more than I just like to listen to music. So I basically, anytime I'm driving, Bluetooth is fired up or I got the headphones in at the gym.
Do you feel like listening versus reading is as effective?
I think that reading is longer term effective unless you're reading when you're really sleepy. Like I have a routine at the evening every night, the last 30 minutes of the day, I go lay in bed and I read a book. And it takes me a month to read that book because I only read probably 5-6 pages a day and I start to get sleepy. And the reason I know that is I'll look back at the paragraph I just read and go, what the fuck did I just read? And you don't even remember it. And that's an indicator like, okay, it's time to go to bed. So that's one process. Now for me, audiobooks are something that I consume, and you can actually speed up the speed on those. And the funny thing about it is that you can speed up the speed replay on it, but it doesn't change the voice. So it doesn't do that. It sounds just like you speaking really fast, like you're from New York or something. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I can actually speed them. I usually about 25% faster. So I can take what's on average an audiobook, which is 8 to 9 hours, and shrink that down into 5 to 6 hours. And then it's really easy to get through that in a week because then it's like 1 hour per day just on the weekdays.
Yeah, I listen at 1.75. If I read a book, I'll start to get drowsy. I don't care if it's noon. You know, yeah. I'm thinking, hey, I want to bring this book on the plane. And as soon as I start reading the book, my eyes start, just literally, I just cannot read without falling asleep. I don't know why that is. There's only been a couple of books where, man, I was glued to it and I could, but most of the time, man, after a page or two, my eyes get heavy. So I listen to audio myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where does one get your book? Where does one pick up your book?
It's available on Amazon, or you can go to the website, 365driven.com, and you'll find links to all that.
And you have audio?
Yes, I have all formats: hardcover, softcover, audio. And I did it myself because I think that's a missed opportunity when an author writes a book not to narrate it, because that's how we hear the character and their voice, and you start to understand who they are and their inflections. And when you hear them again, you go, hey, I'm familiar with that because I've heard this dude for a few hours now. So if you're writing a book, make sure if you can speak and if you can read, do your own book, guys. It's not that hard.
So do you have to record it yourself, like in your microphone, and then you turn it in?
Yeah, actually, I did it right here on my podcasting equipment. I used Audible to record it, and Amazon gives you the sound quality parameters. It's pretty simple, and they tell you to speak at a certain speed because the playback, they want everybody to have average, knowing that we can speed it up anyways. So they look for the background noise, they look for the volume, and each chapter is basically its own MP3 file. So you just upload these onto their little web page and name the chapter and MP3 file, and boom, there it is.
Wow. Did you write and publish your own book, or did you go to one of those publishers?
I wrote the book myself because I enjoyed doing that. I used to be automotive magazines and wrote for car magazines for several years. So I enjoyed the writing process, but then I hired somebody to do the cover design, the format editing, and the content editing.
Who did the book cover design?
Mike Fallett, a good friend of mine. He's probably done 150 books now. He really focuses on entrepreneurs, and he's got a team of ghostwriters who are exceptional as well. That, for people that don't know what a ghostwriter is, it's somebody that will interview you on a Zoom like this, or they will basically take your notes and hear your voice and do these kind of things, and they'll make the book, man. So I'm looking at Brad's here, The Hard Way. That's awesome, dude. There's a rhino.
That's kind of the book cover, but like I haven't seen any multiple designs. Like, how do you get someone to understand what the book's about and then make up a few designs? Because it doesn't have to be this one. But that's pretty good.
You can go to 99designs.com and you can actually have a contest for a book design contest. And basically anybody that's out there that's a designer will participate for free and throw their pitch out there. And whoever wins the contest, you hire them and you pay them for the final design. So that's another way for people to go get 20 examples of a book cover for no charge, just for concept.
And then what? Take a screenshot and ask the listeners, ask the fans, what's the best one?
I actually did do that. I shared those all on my Facebook page and I said, hey, here's the top 10 cover designs, knowing kind of the one I liked anyways, but I just put that out there because that's a great way to market the book, because now you're getting them involved in the project, which they have a little buy-in, and they all kind of know what covers look good, because some of them look like shit, some of them look pretty cool, and you kind of get it narrowed down and you go, hey guys, that cover guys you voted on was the one I'm picking. And now they're like, hell yeah, man. So these are good marketing opportunities that you should be doing while you're pre-releasing your book.
Folks, listen, I could probably sit here and shoot the shit with you for another hour, but I want to make sure I respect your time. I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you, what you do for people. I know that you got a big heart. I know that you hang around the right folks. You're in Arte, yeah?
Yeah, I'm an Arte Syndicate with Ed and Andy.
Yeah, normally I'd say, hey, everybody go join Arte Syndicate, but it's not that easy to join. You kind of got to get accepted.
Yeah, you got to apply, and then they pick 100 people that they want to mentor for the year, and it's not cheap either. It's close to 6 figures when it's all invested in for all the trips and all the things that we're doing.
Yeah, but it's a strong group of folks, man.
Awesome. And you and I were supposed to speak at that event this past Saturday. Unfortunately, it got canceled with all this coronavirus, but we were going to have some fun on that stage with Sean Whalen and Nick Santonastasso and Brandon Gazaway. We had some good speakers lined up. It's unfortunate that didn't happen, but you know what? There's going to be more events, dude. There
will be. And when this is all over, dude, come out to the studio as intended. The experience in the studio is 1,000 times cooler. We get to hang out, shoot the shit in the green room. But I look forward to meeting you in person in my studio and talking on another stage with you one of these days. If I can help you in any way, by the way, let me know, Tony.
Hey, Brad, I'm just honored to be on your show. I'm a longtime listener, and I got to see you speak at the 10X Growth Con back in Vegas when it was in your hometown. And
sorry about that.
You know what? I brushed my teeth 3 times before I finally got on this microphone with you.
Well, it's funny because years later, that's one of the main things most people remember about that conference. I'm telling you, like every time someone sees me, brush my teeth, brush your teeth. But what I'm trying to say was like that admiral, he said it with more class, make your bed. It's the same principle. It's like everybody wants to be successful. They can't even brush their teeth. They're not even looking at the little things like their hygiene, like their appearance. Like, people are judging you. We all know that. So why not know and be aware and brush your teeth, clip your nose hairs, do your hair, cut your nails. Like look at my nails, because my nails, by the way, grow faster than hell. But look at them already, dude.
Yeah, man. When you get more sleep, they grow. It seems like your hair and your nails grow when you get more sleep.
Yeah, but I'm going like soon. Like I almost was gonna cut them, but then I noticed the time. I'm like, dude, I'll do it after. But like, you have to take care of these things. Brushing your teeth was just one of the things I'm talking about. People walk up, Brad, you got 5 minutes? I'm like, yeah, sure, buddy. I got this idea. And it's like, dude, I can't even pay attention because their breath is so bad. And I think to myself, dude, if you can't brush your teeth, how are you going to run a business?
Dude, this is awesome. This conversation's gone a fun direction. Now I could foresee a good social media post for you. Hashtag brush your teeth, hashtag wash your hands. See, now it's time relevant.
Not only that, bro, but like, dude, when your breath's so bad, I can smell it through a Zoom meeting. We got issues. Anyway, like I told someone yesterday, man, listen, you can call me the COVID kid. I'm doing so well. Like at the end of the day, this doesn't bother me at all. I'm enjoying myself. For all the people in the bomb squad listening, I hope you're enjoying yourself, taking the time to make yourself better, get closer with your family, closer with your kids, or learn to communicate with your spouse. Someone says there's going to be a lot of divorces going on. I don't think so. Again, but I'm one of those optimistic dudes. I think now's the time to sit down and figure out how to best communicate and maybe change a little bit and compromise a little bit and, figure out how to better your life. But I know one way to do it. That is to reach out and follow Mr. Tony Whatley. Go pick up his book and go to his website and support him, 365driven.com. And until next time, kids, as always, Keep it real.